Good afternoon. Devastating news is emerging from Adamawa State in northeastern Nigeria, where the Islamic State West Africa province has burned down a Christian village and issued a chilling ultimatum to believers across the nation. According to security analyst Brant Phillip, who broke the story on Thursday, ISWAP released images showing flames engulfing a Christian community in Adamawa alongside a statement that should send shivers down anyone's spine. The terrorist group declared that all Christians in Nigeria are now legitimate targets and offered them only two choices to spare their blood: convert to Islam or pay the jizya tax directly to ISWAP. This is not just another attack. This is religious persecution in its rawest form, and what makes it even more disturbing is the timing and the message behind it. Security experts believe this brutal assault is direct retaliation for recent joint military operations. Just 5 days before this village was set ablaze, President Donald Trump announced that United States forces had launched airstrikes against terrorist positions in Sokoto State, working hand in hand with the Nigerian military to take down ISWAP strongholds. The terrorists are now responding by targeting the most vulnerable, innocent Christian villagers who have nothing to do with military operations but are being punished simply because of their faith. The images released by ISWAP show homes and possibly churches reduced to ashes, while families who built their lives in these communities watch everything they own disappear in flames. Imagine waking up to armed militants storming your village, telling you that your only options are to abandon the faith you have held your entire life or pay money to the very people terrorizing you. For many Christians in this region, their faith is not negotiable. It is the foundation of who they are, and no amount of threats will make them bow to extremist demands. But the cost of that conviction is becoming increasingly unbearable as villages burn and families scatter into displacement camps with nothing but the clothes on their backs. What is particularly troubling about this situation is how ISWAP is now openly declaring all Nigerian Christians as targets. This is not about a localized dispute or a fight over resources. This is systematic religious targeting, and it represents a dangerous escalation in the tactics being used by these terrorists. The jizya tax they mention is a historical Islamic levy that was imposed on non-Muslims living under Islamic rule, but in this context it is being weaponized as a tool of extortion and intimidation. Pay us or die, convert or face destruction. These are the choices being forced upon Christian communities who have already endured more than a decade of violence from Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other extremist groups operating in the Northeast. American lawmakers are now weighing in on the crisis. United States Congressman Riley Moore from West Virginia did not mince words when he responded to the reports on social media. He stated that if there were any remaining doubts that Christians in Nigeria are being targeted specifically for their faith in Jesus Christ, this incident should end that debate completely. Moore rejected arguments that try to explain away the violence as being about land disputes, climate change, or economic competition. He made it clear that this is about religious persecution, plain and simple. The congressman noted that ISIS tactics are being replicated in Nigeria, with terrorists telling Christians they can spare their blood if they convert, but he expressed confidence that Nigerian believers will not bend the knee to anyone except their Lord and Savior. The international reaction highlights just how serious this situation has become. When United States politicians are speaking out about attacks on Christians in a specific Nigerian state, it means the world is watching and the pressure is mounting on both the Nigerian government and international partners to do something concrete about the deteriorating security situation. The joint airstrikes that happened just days before this village was burned show that military cooperation is happening. But the question everyone is asking is whether it is enough and whether it is happening fast enough to protect vulnerable communities before more lives are lost. For those living in Adamawa State and across the Northeast, the fear is constant and the threat is real. Churches across Adamawa State had to cancel their New Year crossover services, those special late-night prayer gatherings where Christians traditionally welcome the New Year because of credible security threats. When people cannot even gather to pray without fearing for their lives, you know the situation has reached a critical point. The Adamawa state government also cancelled its official New Year celebration, showing that the threat level was high enough to shut down both religious and civic activities. Unfortunately, the warnings proved accurate. On New Year's Eve, 7 people were killed in an attack on the Bomdili community in Plateau State, adding to the growing list of Christian casualties as 2025 ended and 2026 began. This pattern of holiday violence is not new. During Christmas 2024, 11 Christians were killed in Benue State by militants. The Christmas before that, in 2023, saw coordinated attacks in Plateau State that left more than 140 people dead and 300 injured across multiple Christian villages. These are not random acts of violence. They are carefully timed attacks designed to strike when Christians are gathered together, when they are celebrating their most important religious occasions, when they should feel safest among their own community. The psychological impact of this targeting cannot be overstated. For the families now displaced from the burned village in Adamawa State, the future looks uncertain. They join more than 7 million Nigerians who require urgent humanitarian assistance after 15 years of relentless insecurity in the region. These are people who have lost their homes, their livelihoods, their sense of security, and in many cases, their loved ones. Children are growing up in displacement camps instead of attending school. Women who once farmed their own land are now dependent on aid organizations for their next meal. Men who provided for their families are now struggling with the trauma of watching everything they built turn to ash while being powerless to stop it. If you are learning about this crisis for the first time, or if you want to stay informed about important developments like this, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. We are committed to bringing you the stories that matter, the ones that mainstream media sometimes overlooks, and we need your support to keep doing this work. The question facing Nigeria right now is what comes next. Will there be justice for the families whose village was burned? Will security forces finally establish a presence strong enough to deter these attacks before they happen, rather than responding after the damage is done? Will the international community follow through with meaningful support beyond statements of concern? And most importantly, will Nigerian Christians be able to live in peace and practice their faith without fear of being burned out of their homes? These are the conversations we need to be having as citizens, as believers, and as human beings who care about justice and human dignity. The people of Adamawa State deserve answers, they deserve protection, and they deserve to know that their lives matter just as much as anyone else's in this country.